Hi guys, I'm Billy. Nice to meet you guys. This is my honey. She tends to come over and find me if I ever squat down looking for attention, so if you guys have dogs, you understand that. Like a lot of honeys, we kind of rescued each other, you could say. But getting away from her, John, I wanted to let you know that although I've used some of the clips before in different videos for one other class, the actual narrative portion here isn't. I wanted to show everybody where I live, show the beach. One of the latest projects I had, finishing out this aquarium. You can't necessarily tell, but it does go through to the back room. Outside that back room is the back porch, which is where a couple classmates that I've had in the past have seen me on different videos. I was hoping to show you some new footage, but I've had to work quite a bit this week. We're coming up on finals and lab practicals at work for the students, and by the time I get home, it's just too dark to do it. I went to go this evening. A lot of the people on the street were already down on the dock at the lagoon, and they were watching the sunset, which is what I was hoping to catch. So, you know, that wasn't necessarily really appropriate. They would probably heckle me, you know, on film. So to save you guys from having to witness that, I figured I would do it in the house and just show you this. Kind of fitting for this class. Some of the other footage I'll narrate through the video, just bring up little captions and tell you where I was in Florida when I caught this fish or that fish or some of the birds. You know, I'll focus on the fish, but we have some really cool marine life and some birding in Florida, so I wanted to show that as well. Although it's not fisheries, it certainly is part of the greater ecosystem and landscape, so I wanted to share that. In regard to this exact assignment, the area that I studied is actually Florida. My reasoning for that is that I grew up here, and although I do a lot of backpacking, I do a lot of as much traveling as I can. It's all ecotourism of some kind. I'm not a big city dweller, even on vacation. I don't want to go to a show or anything like that. I really like to get my feet onto the ground and get some mileage under me with a backpack. Although I like to do that, I really don't see myself moving out of Florida long term. I'm really a water dog. I try to surf as much as I can. I do a lot of fishing. Although there's fishing and some other water sports in other areas of the country, the water is only usable a certain amount of the year. And in Florida, we have like an 11-month growing season for plants. We have about a 10-month swim season for the locals. Maybe 9 months, about 3 months out of the year, I have to put on a wetsuit. The rest of that time, I don't really necessarily need a wetsuit, just to run across and jump in for a few minutes. So for those reasons, I don't really see myself leaving Florida for very long. And along with that, I have to have a job, so I'll be looking to stay employed in Florida. Although I've worked as an eco tour guide, I've worked as an environmental consultant, I'm still a marine mammal observer, protected species observer that really focused on marine mammals offshore for the petroleum industry. I want to stay with education. I really like the education. Where I work now, I'm very lucky. We can do a lot of hands-on things. The college promotes that, and I really want to acquire a full-time faculty position in the department on the campus where I am, and I have a pretty good shot at doing that. So for all those reasons, when I'm taking my students, my future students, out on field trips or just in field labs, you know, the more studying and research I can do now, the better it'll be for my students in the future. So for those reasons, again, that's why I studied Florida. That's where I tend to stay in Florida. As far as the dam removal, we only have, according to the research I've done, we only have about 15 dams in the state of Florida. A couple of those are being looked at being closed very soon. A couple of them are right around the Florida Trail. I've actually crossed them. You have to either wave a flag or ring a bell across a line to get the dam tender's attention so that he can let you through the gate. And I thought that was pretty interesting. There's only 15 in the entire state. I started really thinking about that, although I couldn't find a lot of research. It kind of stands to reason, at least from maybe a layman's perspective at this point, that since our elevation is so minimal, that we have a lot of standing water anyway. We have a lot of lakes, we have a lot of ponds, and we have areas called lakeland. You know, so with all that standing water we have naturally and a couple of rivers we actually have a river, the St. Johns River, comes out of Jacksonville that flows south to north. One of the few in North America that do that. But with all that water, it stands to reason we don't need that many dams. We don't need to create reservoirs. even for irrigation, especially for the citrus industry and the cattle. A lot of people don't know how much cattle we actually raise in Florida. We have the water already, so even if you need to pound a well, the water table is extremely reachable. Most well drillers are in and out within a half a day for any given job. Along with the species that are impacted by the few dams that we have in the state, if we're speaking directly about the about species of fish, the large and smallmouth bass are obviously impacted, mullet, which are brackish and freshwater in Florida, as well as you can find them offshore. They're obviously impacted on their travels. Brim, warmouth, other panfish are impacted. We have catfish in Florida. We don't, thankfully, we don't have any of those noodling shows that I've seen filmed in Florida. We use hook and line for our catfish. Not much grows large in Florida, so there's not a big sport in grabbing hold of a fish, unless you're talking about offshore. We also have, well over a dozen different species of panfish that are impacted by all of this. The gar are actually impacted as well. Essentially, any fish, I would imagine, in any region is going to be severely impacted, if nothing else, in their migration and their ability to travel and make headway in any body of water. When you get out of the actual fish species, our Florida panthers are impacted. We also have bobcats, we have small fox, black bear are impacted. I would say essentially any mammal is going to be impacted that happens to have territory directly around the waterways that are dammed. It's going to impede the flow, obviously, it's the purpose of a dam. That also deals with the plants that grow. We have a lot of invasive species in Florida. We have such a good climate here for everything that, for most things, that we have a lot of invasive plant species. Now, a lot of those plants like more stagnant water. You build a dam, it's kind of what you get, especially in Florida. So the plant life is also affected. Alligators, manatees, we have a lot of manatees that go up into the springs. They get to those springs through the St. Johns River, some various other smaller rivers. So really, if you work your way up the food chain, again, anything that has a territory directly around a body of water that is dammed, I would imagine is going to be impacted. That pretty much sums up the assignment. You can probably hear the crickets chirping on my phone for about a minute now, and I hope you enjoy some of the footage. If you guys have any questions about any of it, I'm keeping it to a minimum, but there are redfish, the scallops we have in the Gulf, you can snorkel off of here and grab. I believe I'm going to try to get some manatees and dolphins in there as well, maybe a couple of our protected or really nice birds as well. Hope you guys learned a little bit. If you have questions about any of it, I'll be more than happy to shoot you the information that I do know. You can always lean toward John for his expertise as well. Hope you guys have a good week. Enjoy the class. In about 10 hours, I'm lucky enough, I'm jumping down to the Keys for the weekend. I'm going to go get wet, get some dive time in, maybe get a pole bent. But ultimately, we're staying at a research lab. I'm bringing a group of students. My roommate has worked at that research lab doing reef regeneration. They go out, they will grow coral, take it out to the grounding sites, and hopefully in about a decade or two, the reef will come back a little bit to normalcy. You know what they say, to run a boat, all you need is a credit card and a driver's license. You don't need common sense, you don't need any history, you don't need any experience. So thankfully there's places like Moat Marine Lab that do this aquaculture, grow these corals out, take them out and epoxy them down. Hope you guys have a great weekend. For those of you that are dealing with the snow, I'm really sorry about that. I'll be down getting my feet sandy. Have a good one.
Hi, baby. You are just so cute. Yes, you are. Bye-bye.